Okay, we're holding at the Mishnah on the bottom of 114. Kuf Yudalad Amud Beis. Is that correct? Let me just see. Today is Wednesday, right? Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, Monday. No, so we're gonna need to learn Thursday night. We do Thursday night, then Sunday we should be able to finish, and then Sunday night we can have a see. Okay. We're running behind, but we'll figure it out. We thank Hashem that you're able to enter every day. And then the chus of our learning, we should have this Mikdash immediately. We need to for Shleima. Does the water come from the coffee machine?
No, from the filter.
Oh, the filter on the side.
It's weird.
There's a tinge of coffee.
That's very weird.
That is from the cup.
Oh.
Okay.
114.
114, yeah. We're learning in the chus of Zahava Golda Basbar. Okay. It says Hamakir Kela Basfarav Biadacher. Someone's notices that someone has his utensil, someone has his svarim. That's my sefer. And to make things worse, and there's a rumor out that everyone knows that he had something stolen from him. He was robbed. And sure enough, now he sees he starts to see his items in someone else's possessions. So you shovel lekeach kamanasan beetle. Now we're not saying that lekeach, that the guy that has his items is the robber. He's saying that he bought it, but he paid for it. So he swears how much he paid for it. Now what happens is he has to give it back to the original owner, but the original owner has to pay him for the price that he paid. He has to pay him the price that he paid. Now the original owner has to deal with the ganav. Lav, but if the rumor wasn't out that he was robbed, lav kali menu, then we don't believe him. And the guy doesn't have to give it back. He says, maybe you sold it, and now you regret it. And you're claiming you were robbed, and you have a whole trick over here how to get it back. Okay, Shani Omer will say machan lacher, you sold it, and this guy bought it from him. What's wrong? The wrong book. Okay. The Gemara starts off with a question on this. It says, what's the difference if there's a rumor out that he was robbed? It's very possible. Maybe he actually sold those items. He's the one that's saying, I was robbed. We're just going to go through a bunch of these things where people are, they just make up stories to cover up to set something in motion. Well, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, look, it gets even worse. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, he's a famous student of Rav, people came into his house, and he got up, and he started to scream. He says that I was robbed. So, that's for sure. That means that it's true. Gemara says, no. This guy is a scoundrel. He's this was his way of getting this to be able to get his items back. This is a perfect trick. He yells in the middle of the night. Rav Kana Messiah Mishmei Rav. Rav Kana, he concluded this statement. Rav Yehuda said it in the name of Rav. Rav Kana concluded it. He says, Rav Kana has a whole ending to this story. He says what really happened was this case. Why is it we're so clear that there was really a robbery here? Is because we actually found tunnels going under his house, and the people that were sleeping in his house because he invited guests. Those guests, in the middle of the night, were making a procession of his bundles of his utensils on their shoulders, and in the end, everyone said, "Oh, so and so was robbed."
I mean, in general, anybody can wake up in the morning, see something that someone else said, it's mine.
Right.
So what does the Bezdin do?
Right. So here, you don't do anything unless you prove it. But over here, we're saying that no, we're trusting him. So we're saying the only reason why we're trusting him is because we know that he was robbed.
Because there are tunnels.
And now we're saying that there were tunnels. And
Chiddush is the shvua.
Chiddush is that he takes it, but the shvua was just for the amount, just to tell us how much he has to pay. Yeah. Okay. The Gemara asks, okay, we know that he was robbed, but maybe it was only kalim. Maybe it was only utensils. How do you know it was svarim? This guy's claiming it was his svarim. Okay, they in this claim that they said he was robbed, they said it was also books. Maybe there were other books. He's claiming big books and they took small books. The Kamri say for plenty of plenty. They're saying exactly which books it was he lost. That's what the rumor. Just because they're giving titles, maybe those were old ones, soft cover paperbacks, and he's asking for new ones, hardcover. With the gold. What's it called on the side? The gold trimming. Fancy encyclopedias. So Amarab going to Amri, the centennial edition. Amarab going to Amri, halal caleb shel pliny, halal svar shel pliny. That they actually said while they were saying this is so and so's kalim. This is okay. So we know exactly which items they were. So we really boiled it down to this rumor out that these specific kalim are stolen from him, and now we see it by someone. That's what he's gonna. Yeah. But I was robbed over here at the home invasion. Anyway, I went to the yeshiva. Someone tells me, "Oh, you're so lucky." I was robbed also, and when they said what was stolen, so I gave so many things extra. I put my wife's jewelry and everything was stolen. I made $40,000. So I said, you didn't hear what I said. I was robbed. I'm not the robber.
You do that on insurance. There was a hurricane. They said I had a freezer. It was filled with all these goods and then it was spoiled and it's $1 million worth of stuff.
Right.
Okay, nothing.
Yeah.
Very common with athletes, people in that realm. That's what they don't. When they run out of money, they claim, "Oh, millions of dollars of jewelry was stolen." Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now the Gemara says, the Gemara introduces a very interesting question. Look at this. This is like a huge chiddush. It's such a big chiddush. It's hard to explain. Does Rav really say that we're talking about an original owner getting back his property from a purchaser? Does Rav really say that the original owner can go and take his property back? Rav says, especially in the case that we just developed, that there were tunnels going into his house and all of this. Rav says, if there's a robber that's tunneling into a balabayas, he's going under the house, not al kalim, and he steals, and he makes it out, potter, he doesn't have to give it back. Yeah, my time. What's the reason? The demei kanino. See, Rav's chiddush is that usually you say that kam le b'derabminei. If someone has a death penalty on him, and that crime that he committed, that violation, has both a death penalty and a monetary payment. So we say we only give him the more severe punishment. We don't give him the secondary punishment, the lesser punishment. which is usually capital punishment with money, something like that. There's a discussion if it applies to other things, but okay. Over here, he's Baba Machteres. The rule by a Baba Machteres is someone that's tunneling under a house, is that because if the owner would try to stop him, he may end up killing the owner. And so therefore, the Baba Machteres becomes a raidif, becomes a murderer. And a murderer, you're allowed to kill before he murders. If someone's coming to kill you, you're allowed to kill him first. So therefore, basically at this point, he's just forfeited his life. Forfeited his life is like a chi of misa. So a chi of misa, a death penalty. Basically, there's a death penalty. He incurs a death penalty by stealing, and therefore he should be exempt from paying, because there's a death penalty plus a monetary payment. So why does Rav say over here that when he tunnels in? I mean, it's a wild svara what Rav is saying, because he tunneled in, so therefore he doesn't have to pay for the. I would have liked the Rav's statement to say maybe he doesn't have to pay the penalty, but to give back what he stole, that's a huge chiddush. I don't have any commentary here that explains this, but apparently it's a Gemara Sanhedrin. Okay. So the question is, why does Rav say that the original owner is allowed to take his item back through paying? Of course, he's going to pay for it, but that's a special, separate thing. But he's going to be able. He doesn't have to give it back at all. The Gemara answers that the case of Rav is different than this case, because Hani mili the kanina b'bav machteres the mikar nasar nafshei lemiktale, abal Hani kiven lemasar nafshei lektala loy. See what happened is over there. A lot of explanation that needs to go into this. What happens is over there, the guy is coming. The robber is coming from outside. He has no explanation why he's in the house. The guy gets up and says, "What are you doing in my house? You're coming to steal." He tries to block him. He's going to. He has no way of defending himself. He's just going to kill the guy, kill the homeowner. He's going to kill the homeowner. The homeowner is allowed to kill him first. So Bab Machteres forfeits his life. But let's say the guy was sleeping in the house, and he's on his way out. He's leaving early in the morning. On his way out, he's going to be stealing.
He's a guest.
The guest is going to be stealing the silver becher. Sorry?
What does it mean he doesn't have to return?
Yeah, it seems like he doesn't have to return anything, because Kamma Daf. Do you have a comment on that? What he has to return?
It's really long. Like the last little bit here.
In that situation, the burglar should assume legal ownership of the things he stole. The subsequent sale to Shimon should then have rendered them Shimon's property. He should not have to return them to Reuven, even in exchange for payment. Okay, so 1 second. An automatic consequence of the fact that it belongs to the owner. Rav, however, extends the Mishnah's exemption even to stolen goods that are still extant. So there is an explanation for this. There's an explanation.
He didn't get death. This is not a best in death.
Right.
Kimli Ramine is if you got something from best, then
right.
So then okay.
That's Rav's Chiddush. Rav's Chiddush is that this is he incurs the chi of misa by becoming a raidif, and he has
but it's only for a short period of time.
Right. But since that chi of misa came at the time that he was stealing, there is a Maraic dispute about the scope of the Mishnah's exemption. Rava limits it to property damage. But if the burglar stole something, he must return the item as long as it still exists. The reason that the burglar's obligation to return the article is not a financial liability from with the principle of Kamma Daf would exempt him, but an automatic consequence of the fact that it still belongs to the owner. Rav, however, extends the Mishnah exemption even to stolen goods that are still extant. Gemara therefore asks, how could Rav explain our Mishnah as referring to a case? Yeah, this is a huge chiddush. Here we're talking about, here it's one step removed from that. Here it's removed because we're someone buying it off the burglar. Buying it off the burglar then the guy shouldn't have to give back the original item because the original item doesn't belong to the burglar anymore. Because doesn't belong to the original owner, because the burglar acquires it because he doesn't have to give it back. Yeah. Sorry?
Doesn't the concept of use have to come in here as part of the explanation?
Well, I would Yish would explain this even without this concept of Kamma Daf. If there would be Yish, then the person can say, you are miyayish, and I bought it, and I don't have to give the original item back because I have already acquired it. Go deal with the ganav.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I think all of these cases are talking about when there's no yish. Lufnei yish ayri. Taisus has this whole thing over here that it has to be before yish. Yeah, you see that? Hamake Caleb is far biadacha lufnei yish ayri. To the Pirsha Kunchas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
From what I remember, it's a
Yeah,
whole-
lufnei yish kamari, Rashi says.
the other situation that was similar to this was the one with that the owner would pay the person that is living for the improvements in the land that he would go after the gun.
The owner would pay. Someone is living on the land,
That he bought from the gun.
and that he bought from a ganav. The owner would have to pay what the lekeach improved. That's right. The owner would have to pay what the purchaser improved, and then the purchaser would have to go to the ganav to get his payment back, which is exactly the same case. Yeah, the owner is paying for the item. Oh, actually, it's not. Over here, we're saying that the owner. This is called the takanas hashuk. We're going to see where the owner needs to pay for the item, and then the purchaser needs to deal with the ganav. That's part of our discussion over here. Who has to deal with the ganav? Over here, the original owner just has to deal with the lekeach. He just takes it back from the lekeach, and then the purchaser has to go to the thief, to the seller, and say, you sold me something that wasn't even yours. Give me my money back. Okay. Amar Rava. Rava says that this whole story that we need to say that this is so-and-so's vessels, so-and-so's svarim, that we know that all of those rumors that were going on. That would only be by someone that actually sells his utensils regularly. And so therefore we have a concern that maybe he sold it and now he wants it back. But if someone that never sells his items, so we don't need to go and to make sure that this and this is the item that he didn't sell and the thing, and we don't have to go through all of this to know exactly that it was his svarim and his kalim. Like the rumor had to be so specific. If he doesn't sell things, then we don't have to go through that. We don't have the concern that maybe he sold it, now he's trying to take it back, because he doesn't sell his items. He's not a store. The Gemara says, but how do you know? Maybe he needed some extra money and he sold it. And we should require all of those details for every person. Today, everyone's selling everything, right? On Craigslist or something. Everything's for sale today. Amar Ravashi, Yatzalei Geneva Be'ir. Hare Yatzalei Geneva Be'ir. Ravashi says that it's enough that the fact that he was robbed, that would be enough. We won't need all the details if the person doesn't normally sell things. Okay.
Amazing how rumors play
Yeah. Yeah. Laz.
Washing the dishes, washing the clothing under the moon, they say.
Right. Right.
Some things don't change.
I'll tell you why. Because you would think, like, I need real hard evidence. But the only thing is that there is nothing that's real. The whole world is all chalam. What's the difference of chalam that this or chalam of rumors or chalam? Like someone said, like I don't read fiction books. So why? Nonfiction is any better? It's the whole thing. Everything is all. It's all imagination. A dream. It's all a dream.
I heard that was a conversation between the Rebbe and Eli Wiesel.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So, said what? Who?
the Rebbe said something like that. So Eli Wiesel, so you're writing things that aren't true, and then he said, well, sometimes fiction can be more true than nonfiction.
Oh wow. Uh-huh. Rabbi Reichik and Rabbi Garari would go fundraising. So one time, Rabbi Reichik arranged a place for them to stay. So it was a real dump. And Rabbi Reichik was not really in this world. He was in a different world. So Rabbi Garari tells him, Shmuel David, what did you do? He says, this is not a nacht zwei, it's just a night or two. So he says, Ganz Elam Haze is not a nacht zwei. The whole world is just a night or two. Okay. Itmar. It was stated by Amirayim of Machlekes Rav and Rabbi Yechanan. Ganav umachar. Someone stole and then he sold the item. Vachyachu karganav, and we know who stole it. Okay. Now the original owner wants to get his item back, but it's not by the ganav, it's by the purchaser, right? There's now three people involved: the original owner, the thief, and the purchaser. Rav Mishmei de Reb Chia Amar Rav, in the name of Reb Chia, which is his uncle, he says Hadinim Marishan, that when the Balabayas wants to get his item back, he doesn't go to the purchaser, he goes to the ganav. You took it from me, you give it back. If he tries to get it back from the purchaser, the lekeach, so then the lekeach, we would have to buy it from him. The lekeach can say, "Look, I'm not involved with you. You go to someone else." Rabbi Yechanan, Mishmei de Rabbi Yamar, Rabbi Yechanan says, "Hadina masheni." Rabbi Yechanan says, "No, you can go directly to the second person, to the lekeach. And you can tell him, you have an item that's mine." Well, Amar Rabbi Yosef says, there's no machlekes here. There's no machlekes Rav and Rabbi Yechanan. Usually it's Rav Papa that says pligi. Here it's Rabbi Yosef. Kan lifnei yish, kan over here lifnei yish adina masheni. If the original owner never gave up hope, so when he sees his item, it's his item. Goes to lekeach. That's Rabbi Yechanan's statement. But over here where he says he has to deal with the ganav, that's because the item is not his anymore, because he gave up hope. He can't go to the lekeach. The ganav that has his item, the robber. Lach yesh hadina marishan, but if it's after yesh, then he goes to the original. There's no machlekes. Very nice. But Tavayu Islu de Rav Chizda, but both of them would agree to Rav Chizda. With Rav Chizda had a statement at the beginning of the parak that he says that if there was no yish, if the original owner didn't give up hope, then you can go to either one, whichever one is easier for you. You can collect from the ganav, you can collect from this one. So here also, before years, you can go to the second one, you can go to the first one.
Depending on
who's easier to get here, right?
He'll say, "Oh, I did use or I didn't
Right.
use."
That's what they would do today in the court. You go after the guy that's easiest, either the biggest pocket, so you go after the guy that's easiest to. That's not going to put up the biggest fight. No, if you have to sue someone in a thing. Amalei Abaya. Abaya says, "V'lei pligi." What are you saying? Everyone agrees to Rav Chizda that you can go to either one. I'm going to show you that not everyone agrees with Rav Chizda. But I'm going to show you that Rav actually argues on Rav Chizda, because when it comes to Matnes Kuna, now with Matnes Kuna, you can have a situation which can parallel the situation that we just had. In the situation that we have an original owner, we have a thief, and we have a purchaser. By Matnes Kuna, we can have a Kayan. We're going to consider him the original owner. We have a thief, and we have a purchaser. As you'll see, the thief over here is going to be a butcher. The Tanan was taught in the Mishnah. Amar Lai, if a person says to a butcher, I want to buy the intestines, I want to make kishka. sell me the intestines of the cow. And in that was the part of the animal called the keva, which is supposed to be a gift to the kain. Every animal, the kain gets the keva. The keva is used to make cheese. You just imagine the kainim had cheese factories. It had the rennet comes from the keva, and it had the matanas in there. So the lekeach, the guy that just bought it, nice and lekain, has to give it to the kain. He bought all the intestines. You can't tell the butcher that, one second, what part of what you gave me wasn't supposed to be for me. Part of what you gave me was your obligation to give to the kain. You gave it to me. I have to give it to the kain. I take off some of the money that I paid for all of this. You can't do that. He bought the whole thing. The kain comes and claims it. He takes it straight from the lekeach. But let's say he bought it by weight. And I didn't just say the intestines. He said, I want a certain amount of intestines. And he weighed it. Then, and then when the kain comes and collects it from the lekeach, from the purchaser, he goes back to the butcher and he says, the weight that you gave me was too much. I paid for an extra pound. One of those pounds was the keva that I wasn't supposed to pay for. Rav then says, Rav comments on this Mishnah, says, when does the kayin go to the lekeach and claim it from the lekeach, from the purchaser? That's only if the purchaser was the one that did the weighing of it. He can go to him. But if the butcher is the one that did the weighing, so then hadin imatabach. Then the kayin goes straight to the butcher and says, I want the keva. You go and get it from the lekeach, from the purchaser. You go get it. So in other words, now the balabayas, the homeowner, doesn't go to the second person, goes to the first person. Now what we're seeing now is that even though there was no yish, the kayin wasn't miyayish. So where's his item? His item is by the lekeach. According to Rav Chisda, you're supposed to go to the second person. Rav says no, you go to the first person. You go to the robber. Who's the robber here? The butcher. He's the one that takes it and sells it. We're considering the item to be in the possession of the kayin, and it's being transferred over to a purchaser now. So the original owner is, according to Rav, goes to the robber, to the butcher, and not to the purchaser. So we see that he argues on Rav Chisda. This is Abai asking Rav Yosef. Abai always asks Rav Yosef the question.
This piece of intestine is noticeably different from the other one.
Yeah. It has like a little, it's called a obomycin or something. It's a section of the stomach. Ema, so let's translate it differently. Afdinem atabach. But Rav says that hadinem atabach, he doesn't mean that he goes. He means also you can go, which is exactly what Rav Chisda says. You can go to either one. We just adjusted the words and then everything fits. Mao detema, because I could have thought ein matnes kunin exalis. I could have thought that you can't go to the butcher to get what you're owed, because you can't steal what belongs to the kayin. It just keeps moving around from house to house, but it belongs to the kayin wherever it is. Kamash Malan, it comes to say that no, it is stolen, and you can go to the butcher to collect it. And then the butcher would have to go to the purchaser. He's going to give him the exact item. Or maybe you can just give him the value of it. I think you can just give him the value of it. Yeah, I don't think he has to give him the exact item. Okay.
So the Kohen is basically the owner of this part since the animal was born.
Okay. Abaya, Abaya says, different than his teacher of Yosef. Abaya says that they're arguing. Abaya Damar Pligi, he says that Rav and Rabbi Yechanan are arguing. But my Pligi, what are they arguing about? Arguing Bidder Rav Chisda, exactly what Rav Chisda says. Rav Chisda said that you can collect from either one. That's what Rabbi Yechanan holds. And Rav holds that no, you can only collect from the Ganav. Okay. Rav Zid Amar,
The gift of the kahuna. Sorry. Oh,
yeah.
sorry. No. The gift of the kahuna, it can be to any Kohen. How does this specific Kohen have a claim over the item?
I'm not sure. You should be able to say that I'm giving it to a different Kayan. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Then it would go to, I think it would go to the Adam, the Cohen that was at the other.
That was something else. That's not by the gifts. That's by the what's stolen from a convert goes to the Kayan during that time. This is the gift, like Truma. It's a gift. You can give it to any Kayan that's available. Yeah. I'm not sure. Okay, Rav Zvid Amar going to Nesiyaishu Abaylam Biad Lekeach. The owner gave up hope only after the purchaser got it, not when the thief had it. And here's what the argument is. One opinion holds, which is Rav. He says that in order for the purchaser to acquire it, you have to give up hope first, and then change ownership. But if it changed ownership and then the owner gave up hope, so then he doesn't acquire it, and that's why you can only go to the first person. That's why. In other words, Rav Zvid is saying everyone holds before Yiyash like Rav Chisda. You can go to either one, the Ganav or to the Lekeach. What happens after Yiyash? Rav says that after Yiyash, you can only go to the first person if there was Yiyash and then Shina Rishos. If there was, he gave up hope and then it changed, because he doesn't acquire it. But if there was Shina Rishos and then Yiyash, then you can still go to either one. That's what it looks like. Let me see if I got that right. Where's Rav Zvid? Rav Zvid Amar. Yeah. I think so. Amar Savar in Rabbi Yechanan would hold Leishna that there's no difference. You can always go to either one. Doesn't matter Yiyash, Shin, or Shus. You can always go to either one. Now, according to that, which means he never has to give it back. How does he collect it? I think I'm doing something wrong. I think I'm explaining it wrong. 1 second. One master, Rabbi Yechanan, holds, I did it exactly the opposite. Rabbi Yechanan holds that if there was a despair and after the change, then the buyer acquires the stolen property. And therefore, either way, the buyer acquires the stolen goods and you don't give it back to us. I made a mistake. The first opinion, the first Marsava is Rabbi Yechanan. Okay.
The reason he did not despair while it was in the possession of the Ganav was because he knew the Ganav, who the Ganav
Yeah, it
was.
doesn't tell us why. It could be that just not enough time.
He knew the Ganav, who the Ganav was.
Now we know who the Ganav is, yeah.
So it's very similar to the case we learned a week or two ago, where the guy had to go all the way to Madai. He knew it was where it was. It's just a matter of time till he would undo his sin, or in this case, he would get it back.
Right.
That's why he was not misjudged.
Maybe. Okay, Rav Papa says, "Beglima the lamari." If we're dealing with a cloak or a shirt or something that was stolen, an actual item, everyone agrees that that has to go back to the master. Rav Papa switches everything that we thought we were talking about. It's not what we're talking about. We were thinking that I have a balabayas, that he's going to collect the item, to claim back the item that was stolen from him. We have a machlekes, does he go to the thief or does he go to the purchaser. Now we're saying exactly the opposite. The item has already gone back to the original owner. Now the question is, the purchaser that paid for that item, does he go to the original owner, give me my money, I paid for it, or does he go to the thief? And who has to deal with the thief? Does the purchaser have to deal with the thief, or does the purchaser just get his money straight from the original owner? Why would we say that? It turns out the reason why we would say that is because there is something called takanas hashuk. It was an institution that people should be able to buy things in the market and not be worried that it was stolen. And so therefore, whenever an item was stolen, we have the owner, original owner. If you want that item, so you have to pay the purchaser for the item when you take your item back, which means the purchaser is never going to lose. Purchaser is never going to lose. When you have an item, you're guaranteed that if someone's going to claim that it's his, you're going to get your money.
It's interesting. The legal law here is totally the opposite.
Right.
If you buy a stolen item, and it's the stuff that you just lose it. Well, if you didn't know it was
Now,
stolen,
if that would get too serious, if people were stealing more, then the whole market would drop. Yeah, no one would be buying things, because if you lose it, you lose. So here, in order to keep the market up, so you're going to get your money back. Now, what about, why should the guy have to pay him? Well, he's going to go to the robber and have to deal with him. I paid for the item. You have to pay it to me. So who has to pay it? So Rav Papa is saying, like this. We're discussing, is there an institution for the market? Rav, Rav, in the name of Rav Chia, says that the purchaser, the purchaser, when he's trying to get his money, he goes to the ganav. There is no institution for the market. And you go to the ganav and you try to get your money back. Good luck. Rabbi Yechon, name Rabbi Yechon, says that the sheni over here, the second one, is not the guy, is not the lekeach. The lekeach goes to the original owner. He's the sheni. The original owner wants his item. He has to pay for it to keep the market up. According to Rav, there's no institution for the market. Right. There's an interesting concept of here. Rav doesn't hold it, but Rav Huna is a student of Rav. Chanan Bisha, there was a guy, Chanan Bisha. Bisha means bad. This is like Ivan the Terrible. Chanan Bisha, Chanan the wicked, right? Yeah. Chanan the wicked. So Ganav Glima of his Avna, he stole a shirt and he sold it. Asal Kami de Rav Huna. They came in front of Rav Huna. Amalelu Gavra Zil Shari Avitach. They told the person, go and pay for the item that you're taking back. In other words, the original owner wants his item back. He has to pay the Ganav. Oh. That means that there was a Takanas Ashuk. That means that Rav Huna that said that, who's a student of Rav, is probably following Rav's opinion. That's our assumption, safe assumption. That and so Rav holds that there's an institution for the market. It's impossible to get money from Chanan Bisha. So that's as if we don't know who the thief is. If you don't know who the thief is, then there's no Takanas Ashuk. It's only if the original owner knows who the thief is. So we don't make the Ganav deal with the thief. We tell the original owner, we know who the thief is, you deal with him. But if we don't know who the thief was, so then we don't make the original owner pay, because he'll never get his money back. If you can prove that it's his, then he can just take it without paying for it, right?
But the guy who bought it knows who he bought it from.
Now the guy
who bought it in the shop.
Yeah, unless he doesn't know. But here we're saying
who he bought it from.
Yeah.
Somebody was.
Or maybe he bought it from someone that bought it from someone. Okay, so over here it's like as if like Hukaraganov, and we don't have that takana. Amar Rava. Rava says, if you bought it off someone that was known to be a thief, then we don't say the original owner has to pay for it. It's your fault. It says, 1 second. That's part of his name. Right? He's Chanan the wicked. And over here we said that the original owner has to pay the purchaser. That's the Takanas Ashuk, even though he's
Should be because I guess he did it more than 3 times, so it's like it's presumed like
Something like that.
everything is stolen.
Yeah. Gemara says, "Need the meforsim lebishusa legnevusa lemeforsim." How do you know he was a robber? He's just a bad guy. How do you know he's a robber? Maybe he did have other things bad. He's on some list of some thing. He's
Child offense.
right. Maybe he's got other problems. No, he's not stealing. How to say just because he's this, he's that. Right. Maybe talk during davening.
A terrorist.
Right. Could be a
Top
terrorist.
10 FBI list, doesn't have to be.
Right.
No, there used to be a practice in many cities in Europe and Asia called a thieves' market.
Uh-huh.
And if something was stolen from somebody, they typically could go to the thieves' market and buy it back. And the police left the whole thing alone because it
Wow.
solves a lot of problems.
Wow.
Oh, it's like you go to a pawn shop to buy
Today
something.
it's a pawn shop.
Yeah, I
They
guess.
have art there, stolen.
Right.
Yeah, but
The pawn opener.
it's not so simple like that market, because if you sell anything to them, they get all your information. Because like the police, when there's a robbery or something, like that's like a police goes to
Pawn shop.
and they check, yeah. And they have all the information and fingerprints and
As
everything.
long as they're legit.
When I was a child, I was in the thieves' market in France. And it
Huh.
was a huge sprawling affair. We're not talking about a little pawn shop. It was an open air market that covered blocks and blocks.
Wow.
Maybe like
Did
a
you
flea
get
market
good
today.
mitzvahs there?
You know, I still regret something I didn't buy.
Oh, so,
They have that in Brazil too till today.
Yeah.
Big, like very large market.
Now, isn't it embarrassing to go in there and say you're selling something? I mean, doesn't that mean that you stole?
Everyone's there is doing the same thing.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it originally started as a thieves'
Uh-huh.
market. Now they kept the name, but it's a flea market.
Oh, it's a flea market. Okay. It's my statement. Ganav para b'chayv. Someone that stole and then he paid his, instead of what we've been discussing until now, is someone stole and then he sold the stolen item to someone else. That's what we're discussing. Okay, now we have a discussion of who has to deal with the ganav, right? No one wants to deal with him. No one wants to deal with the two honest people on the two ends. So let's say someone stole and instead of selling it, used it to pay back his loan. Okay, so now the question is, do we say that there was a takanas ashuk, that when the guy wants to get his item back, his shirt that's now in someone's house, that he has to, in order to keep the market up, he has to pay the purchaser so that he should know that he's so that the market doesn't drop, and no one wants to buy anything. Or do we say that this is not a purchase? This is he's just paying back a loan. He lent him the money already before. The guy is now just paying back a loan. There's no issue over here of keeping the market up. So, how does this work? It says let's see, you got things on credit, so now he is paying that back. Less about the kind of social. There's no institution there to keep the market up that the original owner, before he gets his item back, has to pay the purchaser. The Amri, because they say you gave him money without knowing about this garment. It wasn't like a sale. You gave him the money beforehand. This is just paying it back. So we don't have a concern that people aren't going to buy things or you're going to stop business and all of this if the original owner isn't going to pay the person. This is only after the fact that the transaction was done. Mashkanta, what about to lend the money in the first place? When you lend the money, the guy gives a collateral. Shavi Masan b'meya, let's say he gave a stolen garment that was worth 200 because he was borrowing 100. Sometimes the mashkin works like that. Sometimes you give a much larger collateral than the actual loan, right? Also by takana sashuk. So over there, because the loan was originally done just because that collateral was given, that's a regular collateral. So that was a transaction. So we can say that when the person wants to come and get it, the original owner wants to get it, he has to pay the one that lent the money. he has to pay him for it to take it back, and then he has to deal with the ganav after. Shava b'shava. Let's say the collateral is the same as a loan. That's not a typical way of that's a not a typical way of doing a mashkin, and they didn't make a takana there. Marsuch says no, even if there was exactly the same amount, the loan and the mashkin, there was a okay. Zvina shava b'shava. If there was a sale that was exactly the same price as the stolen garment, so they made over there the institution where the original owner that wants his item back has to pay the guy that has it. Shava meya b'masan, but let's say it was worth 100 and the purchase was 200. It was less than what it was really what he bought. Rav Shesha says that that's not considered. Why did the guy sell this to him? If the guy didn't pay the full price anyway. The answer is because he was giving it to him as a gift. If he was giving it as a gift, then this wasn't considered a sale. But he gave him a garment together with it. So he says, well, that was also a gift.
This last case, he paid double.
No, he paid half. Right? Yeah, what do you have there? You paid double or paid half?
I'm not sure I'm reading that right.
Yeah. But if stolen goods worth 100 zuz were sold for 200 zuz.
They paid double. It's not like you got
No,
a
the
discount.
stolen goods went for an item that was worth 200. So it was used. These stolen goods were used to purchase something that was worth twice as much as a stolen good. So why did the guy give it to him in exchange for the stolen good? The answer is because he was giving him a gift, right? And let's see, 39. The buyer cannot collect from the owner even 100 zuz that the goods were worth. The extra 100 zuz were presumably intended as a gift to the seller, and thus we assume that the first 100 zuz were a gift as well. It emerges that this was not a sale, but an exchange of gifts. Okay. Now, let me just get to the end of it here. The halacha is that they only made that they always made the takanas hashuk unless it was paying back a loan or paying back something that was bought on credit. Okay. So we have to. Can I get to the Mishnah? Should I go a drop further? Should I leave it?
Just
Let me go
quick,
to
no questions. Go.
Okay. Avimi bar Nazi Chamor de Ravina. Avimi, the son of Nazi, is the father-in-law of Ravina. Avimasbu Gavra Arba Zuzi. He lent 4 zuz to someone else. 4 coins. Gun of Glima, Asya Nale. This person stole a cloak and brought it to him to pay back for his loan. So he said, okay, he says, but can I borrow another 4? Now, L'Seifu Karaganav. Then they realized that this guy's a thief. Also, they come to Ravina, and who's dealing now with his father-in-law's story. Amar, he said, the first loan is gonna there's no takana sashuk, and that's what he gave it back for. If he wants the original wants to take it for the first loan, he wouldn't have to give him anything. But but because of the second loan, then for that you have to pay for it, because that whole transaction was only done because he gave him the garment. That was like a sale. Maskafla Rav Kayan. I'm familiar with Rav Kayan in other places, but Rav Kayan, Rabbi Cohen, asked the question. Maybe the original one is Gara Parva was just paying back a loan. The second one is because we see that he pays back. So he gave him another loan. Just like the first time. Why are you saying that the second loan is associated with him giving that garment? That wasn't for the garment. That wasn't. The first loan was paid back. Now we just trust him. Look, he lent him 4 coins in the first time around. So he lent him 4 coins the second time around. It has nothing to do with the garment. This story came to Rabavo. Amr Hilchasuk Rav Kayan. He said, Allah like Rav Kayan, you can't, there's no Takana Sashuk there. Narsha, there was a guy from Narsha, Gun of Sifra, he stole a book. Zavnila Pupana, he sold it to someone from Pupana. Vitamna Zuzi for 80 zuz. It's very expensive. Azal Pupana, the Pupana went, this from Pupana. Zavnila Bar Mechuzah b'mei of Esrim zuz, and he sold it to someone from Mechuzah for 120. Let's say Fukaraganov, then they realized he's a thief. Amar Abaya sells Lezel Mari the Sifra. The owner of the book should go. He only has to pay 80 zuz to the one that he bought it from. I'm sorry, to the last person, Bar Mechusa, even though this guy paid 120. The Bar Mechusa should go and take the other 40 from Pupana. Rabba says, 1 second. How come the original owner doesn't have to pay everything? If there would only be one seller over here, he would have to give him the whole money. But for sure, if someone buys from someone else, for sure you should have to give him. Or else you're messing up the whole market. If they're like this, he's much further removed from the Ghana. Rava says, the original owner has to pay the guy that he's taking it back from 120. Shakal Sifra, and he takes the book. Then the owner of the book has to go and work it out where he's getting his money from that he just paid. He has to take 40 from Pupana and 80 from Narsha, which was both prices, which would equal 120. Okay.
Wow.
Is the rest of what's coming this complex?